So we're going to be doing a little bit different type of video today. So normally Tommy and I are out here doing commentary on, rating each quarterback in the NFL or just screwing around playing Madden on Xbox. But today we're going to actually be talking about fantasy football, and more importantly, fantasy football for beginners, or how I like to call it, intro to fantasy football for your girlfriend. Or you don't even need to be a girlfriend. You just know nothing about fantasy football, and your homies at school come up to you and they're like, "Hey, yo, Luke, we need a 10th for our fantasy football league, and we know you're kind of interested in football. I don't know, we don't care. We just need someone to beat every single week, so we're going to ask you to join the league." So I'm going to break this video down into different parts, and I'm going to start out by kind of explaining what fantasy football is, kind of the generic way of how to play fantasy football. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about standard PPR leagues, so points per reception leagues, and basically these are the standard leagues. You go into ESPN Fantasy or you go into Yahoo Fantasy, and you just join a random public league, and these are generally going to be the settings that you're going to experience. So let's start out by asking, what is fantasy football? Now, according to Wikipedia, the internet's most infallible resource, fantasy football is a game in which participants assemble an imaginary team of real-life footballers and score points based on those players' actual statistical performance. So in other words, basically what this means is how good your team does in fantasy football is directly correlated to how these players play in real-life NFL games. So the next thing is, how do you even play fantasy football? And spoiler alert, if you play fantasy football anything like the guy in this picture, you're going to suck. So in standard PPR leagues, like I explained earlier, generally it is one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, a tight end, a flex spot, a kicker, and a defense. So what a flex spot is it's basically where you can add another player that is either a running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end. So when you have these players, how do you score points with them? So the first position we're going to start out with is the quarterback position. So the quarterback position is probably the most complicated position in fantasy football to describe how scoring works. But generally in a standard PPR league, how it works is, for every 25 yards that a quarterback passes, it equals 1 point. So hypothetically, Josh Allen throws 25 yards, that is worth 1 point. And whenever a quarterback throws a passing touchdown, it is worth 4 points, or however many points that league is designated touchdown. So for example, let's say, I'm going to keep using Josh Allen as an example. Josh Allen throws a 25-yard passing touchdown. That is worth 4 points off the touchdown and an additional 1 point off the 25 yards. Quarterbacks can also gain points off of running the ball. So for each yard that a quarterback runs, it is worth 0.1. So a quarterback runs for 6 yards, it is worth 0.6 points. Quarterbacks can also lose points depending on if they fumble the ball or if the ball is intercepted by the other team. The next position in fantasy football that we're going to talk about is the running back. Now, the running back is probably the simplest position to explain scoring for. So basically, the running back is in charge of running the ball. So every single yard that a running back gains, similar to the quarterback, is worth 0.1 points. So if a running back runs for 10 yards, it is worth 1 point. And if a running back scores a touchdown, it is worth 6 points. So let's say hypothetically Christian McCaffrey runs for a 13-yard touchdown. It is worth 6 points plus 1.3, 0.1 for every yard, so that's a 7.3 point touchdown. Moving on to our next position, we have the wide receiver. So in a standard PPR league, points per reception, a wide receiver will gain 1 point for every reception that they get. And on top of that reception, they have however many points the yards are worth. So for example, a wide receiver catches the ball and goes 2 yards for 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. That would be worth 1.2 points. Now let's say hypothetically a receiver caught the ball and was tackled for a negative 2-yard loss. That would be worth 0.8 points because the receiver caught the ball for a point and lost negative 2 yards. So 1 minus 0.2 equals 0.8 points. Now it should be noted that running backs can catch the ball just like receivers, and the scoring for them is the exact same as a receiver if they were to catch the ball. And similarly, if a wide receiver ran the ball, it would be worth just as much as a running back running the ball. So a wide receiver runs the ball for 2 yards, it's worth 0.2 because they didn't catch it. And if a running back catches a pass for 2 yards, it is worth 1.2 points because they caught it and got yards. Moving on to our final position we're going to discuss today is the tight end. I'm going to keep it short. It's literally just a wide receiver, but they're a little bit slower, and sometimes they don't always catch the ball. They'll be blocking on a running play or something. Anyway, it's literally just a receiver, but not as glamorous. So I'm going to do kickers really quick. Basically, a kicker gets 1 point for a PAT, which is the kick after a touchdown. And field goals are generally worth at least 3. And as they get further away, the longer the kick, the more points it's worth. And then moving on to defense, a defense generally always starts out at 10 points. And from there, if they give up points, they will slowly earn less and less points. So let's say I have a defense that starts out with 10 points, and their offense of the other team scores points against them. My defense will lose points, but then again, my defense will gain points if they sack the quarterback or intercept the ball. So moving on to the final section of the video, we have how do I draft players in fantasy football. Now, there's no wrong way to draft, right? Right? I mean, kind of. I mean, we got to think logically here. Like, if you're taking a kicker with the first overall pick, you're not going to win the league. Or you're taking a defense in, like, the first 3 rounds, you're not going to win the league. But, I mean, you could also do good, if you're just out there picking players because they have a really funny name, or you think they look hot or something, or you think the mascot and the team they play for is funny. I bring those things up because someone I know is actually drafting like that this year. But you look at the picture on screen here. I have Taylor Swift with Travis Kelce. If you want to go out and draft Travis Kelce in the first round because you really like Taylor Swift and you don't know much about the NFL, why not? Go and have fun with it. You could, you could still do good. So moving on to draft order. So how draft orders work is in the form of a snake draft. So let's say there's 8 people in the league. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then it's going to come right back down 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's going to continue until you go through every single round of the draft. So moving on, the most important part of the draft is who should I draft right now with the pick is in front of me. So right here, I have a picture of what a Yahoo Fantasy Draft would look like. And now it looks like a lot to take in, but really you're going to be looking at some super specific things to help you find the right player at the right time. So the first thing you're going to look at is where that player is ranked within how he's projected to do in fantasy. So in this picture right here, we have Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb. We got the top 5 guys that are projected to do the best in fantasy. Now, generally, if you just stick to whoever has the best player, whatever the best player available is, you're going to do pretty good. So that's the first thing you're going to want to look for if you're completely clueless on who to draft. What players at the very top of the draft board are still available. Now, the next thing you're going to want to look at is their 2023 total points. So basically how they did in 2023. And you could see at the top here, under the picture of Christian McCaffrey, we have his 2024 projected. And then below that, we have his 2023 total. So when you're looking at this, you're going to want to see how he did last year, as well as what he's projected to do this year. And that can help you determine his total value. It's important to look at what his 2024 projected is compared to his 2023. And as in his case, he's projected to do a little bit worse. And if you look at other players in the draft board, they might be projected to do a little bit better than last year because they're in a new offensive situation. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is what positions to draft when. So personally, what I like to do is either go after the best available wide receiver or the best available running back in the first round. So if I'm looking at the wide receivers and the running backs available and I see the best available wide receiver is better than the best available running back, I'm going to take the best available wide receiver. And then depending on if I pick a wide receiver or running back, I'm going to then alternate. So like I said, I went with the best available wide receiver, then I'm going to alternate to the best available running back. Now we want to keep in mind though that the top 5 running backs, the fall off after that is a lot bigger than the fall off after the top 5 wide receivers. So it may be in your best interest to draft running backs a lot earlier, because once you start getting around 4, 5, 6, you're going to maybe start struggling to find some running backs, but you could still find some hidden gems and some high quality wide receivers in those later rounds. And one thing that we really want to avoid when drafting in fantasy football is going out and drafting too many of one position. I've been there before. It's round 7. You have about 4 or 5 wide receivers, and you got like 1 or 2 running backs, and you haven't even looked at the quarterback or the tight end position yet. So generally, I never like to draft 2 of the same position in back-to-back picks. But if it's some crazy steal, I'm going to go out and do it. And generally, I like to stay away from quarterbacks until about round 4 or 5, unless there's just a really high-quality quarterback that just fell into my lap, such as Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or even a Mahomes. And at any point in the draft, if you forget who you have drafted already, you could always go to an alternate tab and it could show you the team that you've drafted up to that point. So I think that's about where I'm going to end this video when it comes to content. This is just the basics on how to play fantasy football in a PPR league. I'm not going to get into like the nitty gritty of waiver wires and playoffs, because that kind of depends on league to league, and that's a little bit more, you don't need to know that right now if you're just getting into fantasy football. And just remember, you're playing fantasy football to have fun. I would not recommend playing for money your first time ever playing fantasy football. It's just a really fun hobby to have on the side, and it's fun to put some time into it, even if there's no real monetary gain at the end. You just get to, and if you do win, you just get to rub it in your friends' faces. So thank you guys for watching. I know it was a little bit of a different video today, but if you're watching this and you came in with absolutely no knowledge of fantasy football, I hope you walked out with a little bit of knowledge today. And thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or if you think that I said anything horribly wrong in this video, feel free to comment something in the comment section, and I could try to explain to you my rationale on why I said that. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video of, I don't know, whatever we do. We've been kind of spastic lately, sporadic in content, but hope you guys enjoyed the video.